Welcome to another edition of the NJCAA Sports Page. I'm Robert Williamson. The playoff and postseason focus has gotten somewhat clearer. It will get much clearer after this week. Let's go back to last week, though, and recap. Number 1, Iowa Western taking on Fort Scott. The Reavers got a 61-yard Bender to Williams TD pass, a 62-yard Devon Pay run, and a 25-yard Martin to Nash toss. Then Iowa Western, they primarily relied on defense en route to a 23-5 victory over Fort Scott. The Greyhounds could only muster up 1.4 yards per rush and 2.8 yards per pass, a field goal and a safety to fall to 4 and 6 on the year. The Reavers remain unbeaten, now at 10-0. Number 2, East Mississippi taking on number 5, Mississippi Gulf Coast. East Mississippi, which went 23 quarters without allowing a point, survived the scare when Gulf Coast went up 14-0 on a 7-yard Chris Robinson run and a 22-yard Jason Smith touchdown pass. It all happened in the second stanza, but EMCC came roaring back. They scored 35 unanswered points en route to a 42-21 win over the Bulldogs. The Lions stretched their winning streak to 22 straight and will vie for another MAC-JC championship and a possible berth in the NJCAA National Championship game this Saturday. Number 3, Trinity Valley taking on number 18, Kilgore. Trinity Valley and Kilgore met on the 20th of September in the regular season, and this past weekend in the SWJCFC semifinals with nearly identical results. 52-35 in September, 55-35 last Saturday. However, in the previous meeting, Kilgore led late. This time, Kilgore did score first on a 39-yard Luis Sanchez field goal, but Trinity Valley responded with an 80-yard kickoff return, which was followed by a short touchdown run, and the Cardinals were not again seriously threatened, as TVCC continues to support their argument that they should be considered for the national title game. Number 4, Scottsdale taking on number 6, Snow College. The Fighting Artichokes are one step closer to repeating as the WSFL champions with that nail-biting 43-42 victory over Snow College. Sophomore quarterback Michael Sanders finished the game with 582 yards passing and 5 touchdowns. Callan Hightower grabbed 7 of those tosses for 222 yards and a pair of touchdowns. Clovis Campbell had 2 more INTs, bringing his season total to 10. Snow College suffered their second loss of the season. Both, by the way, have been administered by Scottsdale as the Artichokes stuffed the Badgers September 13th, 34-28, and again last Saturday. Number 7, Hutchinson taking on Ellsworth. The Blue Dragons of Hutch put together a 24-point second quarter and got 201 yards from Travis Curtis on their way to a 38-7 drubbing of Ellsworth. Torrey Smith added 103 yards on the ground on just 9 carries, and Dalton Demos threw for 3 touchdowns. The Blue Dragon defense held Ellsworth to 54 yards rushing and had 13 tackles for losses, including 3 Jeremiah Ledbetter sacks. Number 8, Central Lakes College of Brainerd taking on Minnesota State Community and Technical College. Athen Ashton ran for 237 yards and a TD, providing most of the offense in a CLC 35-14 win over Minnesota State. Both QBs, Jake Faber for Central Lakes and Javante Johnson for Minnesota, threw 3 picks, but Faber was able to balance it out with 3 TD tosses as Central Lakes overcomes 142 yards in penalties to remain unbeaten at 10-0. Number 9, Nassau, their game against Faith Baptist Christian Academy on Halloween night, it was canceled. And the Lions are 8-0 with one more regular season game on their agenda. Number 10, Arizona Western taking on Glendale. Trent Hossick threw for 112 yards and rushed for 122. Touchdown passing, a touchdown running, as Arizona Western advances to the WSFL championship with a 20-7 victory over Glendale. The Matadors dominated time of possession, holding on to the football for nearly 42 minutes, running 69 plays, as compared to just over 18 minutes and 48 plays for Glendale. Meanwhile, 3 lost fumbles and 1 interception did not help the Glendale cause as the Matadors improved to 9-1 and winners of 7 straight. Here's that point in the program where we take a look at a guy who played in the NJCAA and then went on to the NFL. Interesting story this week. We're talking about Chuck Muncie. Chuck Muncie rushed for 6,700 yards in the NFL played 4 years for the Saints, played 4 years for the Chargers, but he began his career in the NJCAA. But would you believe he actually was recruited to play basketball? We'll talk about what school right after the break. At the 36-yard line, Jarvis Hall
awfully close. Kemp will wave and miss. Strikeout, getting over. The Royal team leaves the man at third.
Welcome back to the NJCAA Sports Page. Here's the part of the program where we take a look at the polls, how we think the top 10 rank, and how the NJCAA does as well. Take a look. This week, we are loaded with key matchups. As a matter of fact, it may be the biggest week in NJCAA football. I realize the national championship week, that's huge, but this is where all the playoff scenarios, at least most of the scenarios, are cleared up. Number 1, Iowa Western taking on Iowa Central. That's in the ICCAC. Iowa Western probably wins, but do they stay number 1? Could be leapfrog. They in East Mississippi playing that game of leapfrog. If they stay number 1, they're likely headed to the Graphic Edge Bowl in the national championship. Number 2, East Mississippi taking on Copiah Lincoln. It's for the MACJC title. Copiah Lincoln, 2012, came in as the heavy underdog. They upset East Mississippi. Could it happen again? If it doesn't, East Mississippi and Iowa Western will wind up in the national title game. But you got a Trinity Valley squad who says, wait a minute, guys, we're unbeaten. We've played some pretty good football this year. They've got a tough test this weekend in the SWJCFC championship game. Tyler and Trinity Valley. That should be an interesting game. Scottsdale already pretty much a lock on the Valley of the Sun Bowl, but they want the WSFL title to boot, and they take on a tough Arizona Western squad, which, by the way, is the only team that has beaten Scottsdale this year. Then you've got number 6, Central Lakes College of Brainerd in the MCAC title game. They're taking Rochester. They want the conference title. They want an unbeaten record as well. We'll find out Saturday if that's what happens. And the other key matchup, it is Nassau. They are taking on ASA. I think Nassau's got an argument for being a top 5 squad. They've beaten some pretty good teams, not necessarily ranked teams, but they knocked off a Dean College team when they were just outside of the top 20. They knocked off a Lackawanna team that was just outside of the top 20. A pretty good Lewisburg team. They're taking on ASA this weekend, which is a top 20 opponent. If they fare well, they've got an argument for being a top 5 team. Those are your top matchups this week. Back to that player who played in the NJCAA, Chuck Muncie. He's an interesting story. Had an accident as a child at 6, hit by a car, cast, basically all the body involved, and they said he probably wouldn't walk properly. Not only did he walk properly, he ran properly as well. Got to the NFL, played in Pro Bowls. At one point in the 81 season, had more rushing touchdowns than anybody else in history. That's since been beaten. But he started his career at a junior college and was actually recruited as a basketball player, but convinced by the coach to play football. The rest is history. Where did he go? At the junior college level, it was Arizona Western. Formerly a Matador was Muncie. That wraps up another edition of the NJCAA Sports Page. Before we go, let me let you know again where we will be this weekend. First of all, audio only, but we've got Copiah Lincoln and East Mississippi, the MACJC Championship up for grabs, 3:30 on Saturday afternoon in the coverage right here on JockJive. Then Sunday, we make the trip to Marshall University, Huntington, West Virginia, as Georgia Military College takes on Lackawanna. If Georgia Military wants a bowl bid, got a farewell on Sunday. We'll have the coverage for you right here. Also want to say a huge thanks to the Ramada Inn in Columbus, Mississippi. They've allowed us access to the Colonial Room so we can shoot this week's edition of the NJCAA Sports Page. go to our home website, JockJive.com, and there you can like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. And a week from today, you be sure to be back, because we'll have another edition of the NJCAA Sports Page. For our executive producer, James Crenshaw, Robert Williamson, we'll see you then.